The Graduate is a fairly affordable fountain pen coming from Waterman, and in my opinion, it's a very decent writer and sketcher that could satisfy a lot of needs as an entry level or student level fountain pen. I have purchased the fountain pen on Amazon, and at the moment of purchase, about 2 3 years ago, I paid around 33 Canadian dollars with free shipping. The fountain pen is fairly simple in design. It has a straight cap and a barrel that slowly tapers down to a flat end, no finials. On the cap, we do have, I guess, sort of a finial, you could call it, that is chrome plated, and it has some holes around it, but I think those might be just for decoration rather than functional. Clip, it's actually quite nice and elegant, I guess. I like it. Chrome as well, so as such, fingerprint magnet. At the end of the cap, we have a chromed band, and in there it says Waterman. Nothing on the other side. Nicely aligned in the middle of the clip. And then we have a step down with a black plastic ring, and then again the barrel. That actually doesn't really taper down all the way, it kind of goes straight and then towards the end tapers down to a flat end. And doing a quick test shot. The pen slides in pretty deep, and as you can see, clip sits really nicely in there, no issues. And it slides over the cloth very nicely, almost a military-like clip. Very nicely comes out as well. One thing to mention in here is that the clip basically has an L shape. So this portion towards the end is not actually connected to the pen, but rather the end part or the flat part of the clip connects to the pen. Be careful with this. I've seen people bending this too much and completely bending it out of shape. If you do that, it will be a little bit harder to bend it back into place, because as far as I can tell, there's no way to take the cap apart. The cap, it's a pull-push cap, works very nicely, has a nice click to it. And once removed, you will be greeted by a nice plastic section. On my specific section, I do have some side grooves from the injection molding. However, I do not feel it with my fingers. And the section is actually very nice and comfy, at least for my hand. At the end, we have a groove and flares out a little bit, and that's where the cap will be clipping inside the pen. And a nice nib. I actually like the design of Waterman nibs, and a nice fit as well, which breaks away from the generic feeds that you are used to see on fountain pens. Having a look inside the cap, very simple. We do have a plastic inner liner that seems to be glued in place. There seems to be no way to actually remove it as far as I can see. The body of the cap is made out of brass, and then again we have that inner plastic sleeve. The barrel twists to open. We have plastic threads, so the entire section is made out of plastic. I've added this converter. The fountain pen does not come with a converter. And as a fun thing, if we look inside the barrel, we have a complete inner sleeve all the way to the end of the barrel. Open, however, you can see the metal at the end, but very interesting to see that the entire body of the pen is covered with the inner plastic sleeve. And that's kind of good because, well, you do have plastic threads on plastic threads, and as such, you won't damage those threads anytime soon. In hand, the fountain pen feels actually really nice. I never had issues with it. I like to use it, and while it is not the most wild or catching design out there is definitely a very functional design. The balance in hand, it's actually pretty good, pretty much in the middle of the pen, which is really nice, unposted. And as mentioned, the length, it's actually decent for me. It's a little bit above my knuckle, the way I use it. So even if I catch it a little bit higher, still stays on the knuckle, and I can sort of do some longer strokes with it. If you find it not long enough, the pen does post, and it's actually posting very securely, and in hand it will definitely be longer, so for sketching it will be nicer. However, unfortunately, because of the metal cap and the plastic section, the pen it's quite top heavy, so this might be an issue for some users. Holding it here, the pen actually feels top heavy. If you have smaller hands, you'll probably not like this. I guess in the end depends on how you hold it. If you hold it more upright, you won't feel that weight that much. For me, I'm okay with using it posted, to be honest, because the weight of the pen actually it's on the knuckle, and the way I write, it's kind of this position, which is okay for me. But I admit, most of the times I do prefer it unposted. It's a nicer weight. And that's about it. A very simple and elegant in its own way fountain pen that I actually enjoy use it. I didn't use it as much as I probably would have liked to, but every time I use it, I never really had an issue with it. I've read somewhere that people were complaining about the plastic part of the pen, that it's smelly or feels awful. I never had that issue with it. Anyway, let me go into inking it up and then writing sample, and hopefully we'll get a nice sketch with it as well. For today's ink, I decided to use, well, what else other than Waterman Intense Black ink. I haven't used this ink for a while, as you probably can see the dust that has gathered on top of the bottle. One thing to note is that ink does gather inside this groove a little bit. However, using a paper towel and folding it like this will clean it quite nicely. If you use an ink that stains, just dump this paper a little bit and should help you with cleaning it. Okay, so this is Waterman Graduate. Fountain pen. So the nib it's actually really good. I like Waterman fountain pens nibs. They're nice. I like them. And the fine, it's an actual fine, which, by the way, if I didn't mention, I do have a fine nib. A little bit chatty, but on the good side, is more like giving you a feedback that it's in contact with the page. The feeling that he actually has is smooth and lays down ink very nicely. And what I really like about this fountain pen is that reverse gives you a beautiful extra fine line. So working on those details should be fun. And as you can see, it does keep up with me quite nicely. It is a little bit drier, but if you slow down, it gets wetter. And for quick strokes, gives you a nice effect too. I like that. So these nibs are definitely one of my favorite nibs for sketching and writing. Okay, so as mentioned, nib is beautiful. I love it, and the flow of the ink it's actually really good. These are definitely one of my favorite nibs as well. I mean, as in the Waterman nibs. And with this nib, you do get very little line variation, but I wouldn't call it a flex or semi-flex or even a fun nib. The line is not that much of a difference when you pull down. Anyway, like the pen, love the nib. Let's see what we can do with it by attempting to do a quick sketch, and I'll let you know my final impressions on this fountain pen. Today was another day without much of an inspiration, not sure what I draw, but I guess that is nothing new. As usual, was relaxing, no complaints there. I guess I'm not very good at things without planning, or maybe just running out of inspiration, if I ever have had one. I ended up using all the Waterman inks that I have. Nice inks, but unfortunately they kind of smudge a little, so I had to pay some extra care. Even so, I still ended up with a smudge or two. Anyway, the fountain pen worked out great, no surprises there. Hard to complain of anything on this fountain pen. What do I like about the Waterman Graduate fountain pen? A very simple and kind of a workhorse fountain pen in my opinion. I do like the fact that the body and cap of the pen are metal, has a really nice section and a decent length to it, and it meets the barrel with a very small step up that you can barely feel. I actually really enjoy using it. At no point in time I had any issues with it, with my hand hurting or my fingers having any issues with that section. It has a very nice nib, smooth on both sides, and quite a joy to use with an actual fine line that I like. Good size, good grip again on the section, and I even like the feed design that they have. As for dislikes, I guess one complaint will be the missing converter, and maybe the second one will be the fact that it's a little bit too top heavy when posted. And as more of an attention than a dislike, be careful with the clip. As mentioned, I have actually seen people bending these clips by mistake, and they are tough to bend back perfectly because of how the cap was designed. Bottom line, I like it. I think it's a great fountain pen that is quite affordable, even though affordable is a relative term, I guess. And I truly think it's a great choice as an entry level, or better said, as a first fountain pen or student fountain pen. And not only. The metal body will give it the ability to take a few hits, while the plastic section will feel warm, comfortable, and grippy. With that said, I guess that's the end of it. Enjoy the rest of the time lapse if you can, and if you have any other questions, as usual, please leave a comment below and I will try and get to it as soon as I can. Thank you for joining me today. Hope I'll see you next time, and I wish you all the best and a wonderful day or night, wherever you are. Take care. Bye.